technology services for their support of this. And this brings us to the panelists for this one. So we've got Amber Villegas-Williamson, Senior Consultant of Uptime Institute. She'll be moderating the panel discussion. Ayman Al-Ali, the Chief Business Excellence Officer for Centre Free. Ian Ruddy, for SVP of Human Resources for EMEA at Digital Realty. Angela Capon, who's the VP of Global Marketing at Etchinex, and right at the back behind me, Umaima Haider, Lecturer of Computing Science and Digital Technologies there of the University of East London. May you give a warm round of applause as they take to the stage. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh, I have the right mic. Excellent. Okay, excellent. So thank you, everybody, for staying. And I know that we're competing with some of the drinks outside, so thank you. Some excellent conversations we've been having today. So what I'd like to start with is, when we start to think about how do we recruit people into this industry, so technical industry, telecoms industry, data centers, etc. I did look at some stats. Children in the UK, so young people, they want to be doctors, social media influencers, YouTube people, etc. So one of the things I want to do is just direct a question to Aman. So when you think about all of the careers that are available for children and what they actually want to go ahead and do, why do you think that being an engineer or indeed any data center career doesn't appear on this list?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm really happy to be part of this panel. So before I started my career as an engineer, so I understand the difficulty of being an engineer. I moved to HR later on. So by the way, Centre 3 is a new established company. We just launched 2 weeks ago. The company is a spin-off of STC, and we are focusing on data center, submarine cable, and internet exchange. So your question is, why among the young talent, engineering is not something that attracts them? Right. So if you ask this question, I think back in the 80s, I think the three top jobs that the youth wanted to be was doctor, engineering, and maybe pilot. Where I don't think any of them have made it to be pilot anyway, but this was the ambitious by then. And I think the reason by then was that the engineering was the core of the industry, which was moved and shifted later on by the years to be in IT and different domain. So adding to that, working in data center or engineering in general is not something easy to be worked with. So there is a big pressure to work on. There is no flexibility in general. And add to this the difficulty of the study itself. So, as you know, engineering is based on mathematics and advanced mathematics, which is not lovely things to study anyway. So, if you add the difficulty of the study, and then add to it the difficult work environment that they've been through, and the competition in the market, not in the engineering field anyway, because it's been in different ways. So the young talent, if you ask the young talent today, what's their dream job attribute, they will tell you 3 things. I want flexible working environment or flexible working arrangement. I want to be innovative and agile. I want to be paid well anyway. And the first 2 is not an engineering job. So you cannot be innovative if you work on data center. You just have a process to follow. You cannot do a lot of innovation, otherwise you will have disaster. Flexibility is not that much easy, simply. If you look at the COVID days, the majority of the people work from home, but engineering on site work from site. The technician on the field work from field. So that makes it difficult and not much into attractive to young talent.
Thank you very much, Aman. And I'll just go over to Angela. So one thing that you may not have noticed is that Angela's from EdgeConnect, and I'm from Uptime Institute. And one of the recent data centers that they launched in Barcelona was a first for me, because I was the senior consultant that went to do the tier certification, But actually, we had 2 women from Uptime Institute who were there to do the certification. So that's a first for Uptime. But Angela, how as an industry do we find, and attract this new talent?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think you were quite a story within EdgeConnects to have 2 female engineers, and a very proud moment for us anyway. And I'm responsible for a women's group. Most companies have employee resource groups. We have a women's group called Women Connects. We as a group are on a mission to empower everybody in our group to go out and talk to anybody and everybody inside the industry, outside of the industry, to get them to come in and join our industry. So it's as we say, we're not competitors in a room anymore. We're just trying to get the talent in and fill that gap. So a lot of outreach programs, coming along and listening to everybody speak this afternoon. As you know, I've got a book full of notes to go and steal everyone's ideas and take that back to my group.
It was very interesting. We had 2 women who were the engineers who did the certification, but we had 4 people named Ryan. So it's an interesting one for me. So once we have found this talent, Ayman, I've got another question for you. What have you found successful in retaining staff? So what things have been successful for you when you have had somebody join? What things have worked?
So I think the first point, leadership or leaders in the organization have to believe that the most important asset that they deal with is their talent, and among the top is engineers, because if you have bad engineers, you have disaster. So regardless of how you package your product, doesn't matter if you have a product that doesn't work. So the management in the organization have to believe that the engineers or the talent, that's the most important, the valuable asset. Second thing is, we have to realize one fact, which is there is attrition among the young talent, and you have to believe that's happening, no matter what you do. So in STC, what we have done, we have a mass recruitment for fresh grad. We know that we are not going to get the output from this fresh grad before 1 or 2 years, because we enroll them in a development program. But regardless, we believe that 50% could resign, but the other 50 would be enough and would be good for us. So there is a program in which we put this young talent into. So there is training program, rotation, and on-job assignment, in which those young talent, after 2 years, we classify them into their domains and their specialty. And we put into that retention tools to ensure that they don't leave the company. And there is this kind of attachment. Maybe you don't agree on that, because we discussed this in the rehearsal. But in HR, there's this attachment between retention and attrition, which is not good. Actually, companies tend to give retention to people that they are afraid to leave, which lead to kind of unsatisfactory job environment. That's not everywhere, but that's general. So what we try to do, regardless of the attrition rate, because if you reach the moment that the employee wants to resign, no matter what you do, you cannot retain him. So you have to have a good program in place to make sure that he doesn't think of resigning. So we have these programs where we focus on specialties-based assessment, and we put them in enrollment program, and we have the right retention tools to make sure that they don't resign. On top of that, we created a program called SDB, which is Special Development Program, in which the engineers can go up to the ladder to be a principal or advisor, and he can go and be in the management level, but he's not a manager. So he will get the benefit of being a manager, because we want to retain those people as they grow the ladder of technician. Because what will happen if you only focus on leadership in a benefit-wise? You will have bad leaders, and you will lose the good engineer on field. So that's what I have in mind. Yeah.
Perfect. And this leads wonderfully into you, Ian. Do you agree with what Aman's saying? And are there any particular ways that you have attracted talent to digital realty? And what have you found that works?
Well, first of all, I think we actually do agree. And secondly, I'm not an engineer. I'm actually a political scientist by background. So I work in the HR team at Digital Realty. Just a bit of context. We have about 2,000 people across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, ranging from Dublin in the west. I'm from Ireland, by the way, so big way for Ireland. Tel Aviv in the east, to Stockholm in the north, to Cape Town in the south. We have about 18 geographies across that. I think from a retention, well, it should be about attraction and retention. I just want to go back to first question. I think one of the things that this industry has to do is bring alive for people what the industry is about. And you try and explain that to a 16, 18, 19-year-old. And that's what the industry has to do. So I have a 19-year-old daughter. And when I explain to her what I do, I tell her, well, today, Erin, I walked in the iCloud, I can't say which client it was, and her first response was, could you see my data? So I think there's something about bringing the industry alive for people, because we're a bit of a box. I know data centers are shaped box-like, but I think we need to bring that alive. I think in terms of retaining people, money is only a hygiene factor. It'll only last for a short period of time from an engagement. What people want is to feel valued and developed and grown. And if they can see that happening for themselves, they're more than likely to stay with you if all the other hygiene factors are in play. And the person who's the biggest influence on that is the person who's their day-to-day supervisor or line manager. And that, for me, is a key area we're focusing on. So for us as a business, we have seen attrition rapidly increase since the end of the pandemic. There is huge competition across many metros for the electrical and mechanical engineering talent we have. And sometimes engineers will move literally across the street to go to work for either, in some cases, a customer or a competitor. And so therefore, you have to think, what's the attachment that will keep them with you? Because money will only be a short-term thing. And like you said, Aman, I think management and supervision have a key role to play in that factor.
Perfect, excellent. And one of the things that you actually mentioned is about getting the word out there and what we do as engineers or as people that work within the data center. And obviously some people have been mentioning 2020 and the whole COVID, and I don't want to try and bring that back, but there was a outreach program that actually happened in 2020 by Tomorrow's Engineers, and it was called I'm an Engineer, Get Me Out of Here. And it was an online school outreach program which enabled students to interact on a one-on-one with people within industry. Because one of the things, yes, we have all these different positions and we do things for roles, but we are actually people. We have different interests, we have different hobbies, and by enabling that conversation to happen with children, they had that one-on-one to be able to identify with us as individuals. Because Umama can tell us, do any of your students actually even know what data centers are?
Just to give you a little bit background about me before I answer Amber's question, I'm in the academia in UK from last 10 years, but in the data centers industry I have been in from last 6 years. So I have seen both the face of this, where the supply generates and where the demand generates. So coming back to Amber's questions, that were the students, particularly, I'll give you the examples of the UK universities that aware of the word data centers. My answer is big no. Why? I can give you only some of the universities which are on my fingertips that only teach a very high-level concepts of data centers. And that is also started in last 3-4 years back. Before that, it wasn't. If you go to the top-tier universities, they don't have any subjects related to data centers. And even they started emerging like the word cloud computing modules, in that they gave a little bit touch about that. That is also last couple of years when this digital transformation, all these strategy comes across. So I think there is a big that we don't know, the students doesn't know what the word stands for, data centers. We do have in the universities lots of students graduating every year. Like if I give you the example of my university from the last year, this year, we have 206% increase in the students in the computing department only. But the problem is that we don't teach them much about the data centers. So the problem is that we need to raise the awareness, and we want, from the academia side, we want the industry to come towards us to see what they are doing, what they are looking for, what their skills they required. So we tailored our modules, our subjects according to that, so that the candidates will go and find the job in this industry. So again, I say my answer is no to your question, Amber.
No, I'm going to just change my second question that I do have for you, but I know that you'll be able to cope with it. Of all the students that you teach, what would you say the percentages that you have of actual women studying with you versus males?
For example, I mean, the diversity in terms of the students at the moment in the university, we have 50-50. But we have a concept like women can't go to the data centers, on-site visits, and these things, they are better on the software side. They sit at home and do these things. But I don't think so. The things are changing now. They are competing with boys these days, and I see more women going into the industry on-sites. They love to do that as compared to the boys nowadays, and they're performing very well in that case as well. So I would say, I always say, because I've seen the data center industry, I have done various data center projects across Europe, Middle East, and US. So, but the problem is that to raise awareness in the academia, that's the main thing.
Perfect. And I'm just going to go back to Angela, because obviously we had that unique situation with the Barcelona job. But what other things are you doing at EdgeConnect to help to encourage women to apply for data center roles and other outreach programs that you're doing?
Yeah, I think a lot of organisations have many resource groups, and you've heard much about them this afternoon. And we're not doing anything dramatically different, but what is great is that you're hearing everybody in every organisation is very passionate about bringing the talent up and the ageing generation that we are within the data centre. So we have several projects from the women's group, we have a wellness group. One of the big projects that we join forces with is with the infrastructure masons on a capstone project, which is the universities across US. We went in and created a data center module for some of the universities, and we trialed it at Hampton. And out the back of that, we had 12 scholarships on offer to those students, and one of them actually came to EdgeConnect, a lady called Jai Huntley. So if you're going to any of the iMasons Awards tomorrow night, she actually went on to win an award. So those sort of projects fill our hearts with joy, is that we've put in, the older experienced people went into that university in their spare time. So this isn't something that any of us in our room will have as a full-time job. It will be something that you're potentially passionate about and do outside of your working environment, and you'll give up your time for these people. And that's what's happened. Our leadership went in, gave up the time, and off the back of it, we were very lucky to have one of the 12 scholarships join EdgeConnect, so we're really proud of that project.
That's fantastic. It does sound like it would be a nice full-time job to have. I tell you,
I'd love it.
I'd love it.
I'd love it.
One of the things that the previous panel was actually talking about, Rachel Collins and Vicky Slade were talking about that responsibility is our own individual responsibilities. So in terms of our own biases, one of the things that I actually did yesterday evening was I had a look at some of the senior and VP level job postings that each of these lovely people up here do have to check for any gender-coded language. I'm going to go to Aman. Would it surprise you if I told you that STC, so Saudi Telecom, only uses one masculine-coded word in any of their job postings? Would that surprise you at all?
Well, if you go back 5 years ago or 6 years ago, you don't need even to do this analysis, because the job was specifying this male, this female. So we went far away from that. So no, it doesn't surprise me today, actually. So if you look back in 2015, we have 0 female working in STC. And today we have 3,000 working for STC. We are hiring in a yearly basis, almost 800 fresh grad. 50% of them are female. 25% of our fresh grad female are working in technology sectors. So, and by the way, it's not a top-down agenda. It's based on merit. So we just open the door for them. We just give them fair opportunities, and they get selected because they approve to be qualified as men are qualified. So yes, I don't think it's because intentionally done. The management in STC and in the country at large, they are supporting this. And as I told you, it's not something that's imposed on us. It's something that find to be normal.
I know that we spoke about this just a minute ago, but one of the reasons that I did want to pick on Ayman is to point out that in the audience, if you were to think about Saudi Arabia and whether jobs would be coded masculine or feminine, you would have immediately used your own internal biases to think that it may be Saudi. So, you know, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that actually sometimes people surprise you, and as we were talking on our practice call, an engineer is an engineer no matter where in the world you are, and we all speak engineering, I think. And when we look at trying to get people involved and trying to get young people involved and thinking about STEM careers, as a large company and a large country with people all over the place in very segmented towns and cities, what kind of things have you done in terms of school outreach programs that have actually worked? Have you tried anything?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we participated in Career Day and Fair Days in all the universities, in which we offer jobs for a grad or undergraduated male or female, and we take from the best. So and it's not difficult, by the way, to attract fresh grad in Saudi, because we are blessed of having very big amount of fresh grad, honestly, in all the domains. It's just that we pick the best out of them and to develop them and retain them and keep following up on their retention and development. So yes, we do that.
Perfect. And I did actually give all the panelists here a bunch of resources that I actually refer to. One of them is a book called Superior, and it's The Return of Race Sciences by Angela Sani, which is absolutely fantastic. She's got a few books that I highly recommend everybody read. But if kids can't see their potential futures, then they can't be the futures. So Ian, I'm going to go to you about outreach. What kind of outreach programs have you done, and have you dedicated any outreach programs targeting specific underrepresented groups?
Yeah, at digital, I probably would say we've done three things. So we have a very extensive women's leadership forum. And we also, by the way, sponsor the Women's Tech Forum, who I know had a function with other tech companies yesterday evening. And that's a very successful body internally that effectively is a forum for all employees, by the way, not just women. And it's an education forum, an information forum, and it's a networking forum as well. And that works really well. And of course, those women know other women who don't work for us today and potentially can reach out from a talent perspective. We have a number of different employee resource groups. We have a Black ERG, we have a Pride ERG, we have what's called Digital Voices, which is what some might refer to as the Hispanic ERG, but we don't like to use the word Hispanic for various diversity reasons. And we use those groups as well as talent finders for us. So we will actively encourage those groups to go and find talent for us as well, to ensure we reflect the communities within which we do business. I think the third thing is that I think globally we have about roughly 3,600 people working for us. Each of those individuals has the potential to source talent and diverse
Revolut
talent.
is one app
And that's,
for all things
and we
money.
actively
You can easily
encourage
send,
that as
spend,
well through
save,
examples.
and secure
So
your
we
money,
will
all
often
from the palm of your
highlight
hand. Make
through our
transfers.
intranet videos of the new woman engineer that's just been recruited in Vienna or in Frankfurt. And my final comment is as well is there has been a lot of migrant communities moved into Europe for many different reasons. And we've been very successful, particularly in Germany, at targeting the new migrants into Germany and that community as well, because that community bring amazing high levels of capability, skills, knowledge, and particularly in electrical engineering. And that has been very successful for what is our biggest growth market at this moment in time. So my guidance to you all is use the talent that sits within as a talent for sourcing diverse talent.
Perfect. And I know that when we were doing the round table earlier, one of the gentlemen, I think he was from Cold, actually mentioned this. You know, as an interviewee, when you come into a company, that is your first exposure to the culture of that company. If you have a bad interview process, even if you get the job, it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and you may not want to bring other people on. But when you have those methods of being able to use your own people to go out and bring in the talent because they love what they do and they love where they're doing it, that's the best thing. Angela, I'm going to come over to you. Obviously, it's a bit difficult because I've got to keep turning around every time. But is there anything in particular that you have found in terms of engaging or trying to use your own employees to go out into the market to find new talent? Have you done anything like that before?
I mean, we're pretty new, only 18 months into employee resource groups. We're not like DRT with, a big source of people. We're only 200 people in EdgeConnect. So I think my message is don't be overwhelmed by hearing you've got to have this group, you've got to have that group. If you've got a passion for something and you want to create that group, just go do it. And that sort of message is how we filter through to the organisation. We empower everybody to, go get behind their cause and go out. If it means going out to schools and talking to girls about doing STEM, if it means the Pride Week that we run a week long of activities, which we've done, make it small and make it an impact and make a good go of it, and don't think, I haven't got all these resources, I haven't got all these people, we're never going to pull this off. You absolutely will. And I tell you, the leaderships in all of the operators and all the companies are 100% behind you. I can guarantee that.
Perfect. And I know that some of the people that we've had on panels previously were talking about getting talent and training talent up. And there's obviously a risk involved with training people, because what if you train them up and leave? And it's always what if you train them and they don't? As an industry, we're struggling to get new talent in. So someone's going to train them, and the likelihood is you train somebody up, they stay with you a while, they maybe go to a competitor or a client, but then they may come back. What are your thoughts on that, Ian?
Well, I think the answer is simple. If you, as I said earlier, if you don't invest in someone, they will either be disengaged or they'll go and make it happen for themselves. I mean, none of us are a tree. I hope we're not. And therefore, we can look to plant ourselves somewhere else if that's the right thing for us. So one of the things that we've realized, largely driven by our attrition, is that we have more work to do as a business in both what I would say technical and non-technical training, and particularly in our managers. We're just rolling out a kind of refresher program on manager essentials so that managers can do the basics right and well first time. I think there's some great work being done by some of the cloud players in data center in terms of the skills and knowledge and the profiles and the frameworks available. And thank you for sharing that with me the other day, by the way. And I think there's a role for industry generally and education as well to work together to create those frameworks that train people up for our industry. And look, if someone on our team goes and works for EdgeConnect at some time, that's good for our business and that's good for them.
Exactly, because you may have somebody come from them to work for you. Umaima, you wanted to add in?
I just want to chip in terms of retaining the talent. I would say that, you should make the candidate to fall in this industry as a career of choice, not a career of chance. So with giving them a big flexibility and with sort of cross-market skills and the transferable skills that we are talking about. I give you the example. One of the project I'm working with the company, in UK, and I see the one candidate. I was surprised when I see the candidate. He comes with a background of a first degree in chemistry, and it comes to the data center industry. He's graduated in the top-notch university from the UK in the first degree in chemistry, and right after his graduation, he joined the data center industry, and since last 5-6 months, he's perfectly working fine. We don't have any issues with him. He's learning the technologies, how the AWS, Microsoft, Google, and this works. So it's not about that you now need a mechanical, electrical, or computer engineer. You can think outside the box as well to get the thing. It's not we need to think about the transferable skills. We can't get the perfect match in this, and particularly in terms of the recruiting the female candidates, I would say, but I mean, it's a psychological thing. If we female, I myself as well, if I look at the job descriptions, I see, okay, all the 100%, I met all the 100% criteria, then I only apply for the job. But for boys, they says, okay, 50% we are meeting the criteria, let's go and apply for the job. So, I mean, we need to build this confidence as well, and I would say particularly for the girls at the stage when they are the teenagers, because as Amber knows that people do STEM UK ambassador activities in London and outside London as well. So I normally go to the secondary school girls, and I ask them that, do you know what data centers are? Nobody raised their hand. But when I says, do you watch YouTube videos? Everybody raised their hands. So this is how we need to, from the ground level, we need to motivate them that what is the data center industry, what this thing, because according to some psychology studies or something, because they says that the age of the kid is from 6 to 8 years up till 12 years, where they set their mind what the career they wanted, rather than going into the university. So I mean, this is the main thing, is that we need to raise awareness right from not to the graduates in the university. That's true, we need to attract the talent from the graduates, but from the school level as well.
Exactly, excellent. And Aman, I could see you waving frantically to me to say that you wanted to comment on that.
So I totally agree with you and with Umayma, thank you. So I would add something here. So there's no option other than keep recruiting fresh grads. So you have to create a pipeline of engineers building until they became a senior engineer. So even if they resign, even if half of them resign, you still have the other batches on the way. The fact is, data center average age of engineers is 45 years, which is scary. I mean, what happened after 10 years when they retire? So you have to prepare the pipeline moving forward, even if they retire. And believe me, even if it looks costly to hire fresh grad, it's much cheaper. You hire people with low salaries, and even half of them, if they resign, you still have the people that carry on over the year. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on, sorry, Eamon's question, like about the people are over 45 and this, but we need to see that where the pipeline is coming. I mean, that's what we say as a university. It's not, I mean, yesterday I was in an event and discussion. People say that, okay, why we go and search for the graduate or something? It took them 3 to 4 years to graduate, then they will come back to us. It's not about that. Don't wait for 3-4 years. Give them the internship opportunities between the studies. Give them the apprenticeship programs. Give them the industry placement. There are various ways that we don't need them to graduate after 4 years, then you wait until to take them. But there is before the various steps that you can train them right since they enter the university.
That's an excellent point. Ian, I think you wanted to add something onto that as well.
I agree 110%, because what's happening at the moment, no, not only because you said it, but because the reality is for our business at the moment, we can't find the skills we need experienced in the market. And that's forcing us as a business to now realize we need to invest and build for the future in both early careers programs and the examples you quoted, building relationships with certain universities. Mr. Lex Kurs, you probably know of. He's one of our he's our chief technology officer, linked to a university nearby. And in addition, using the frameworks that already exist within many of our geographies to support that, whether it's in Germany, France, or South Africa, where you have government support in such programs. But once again, it's been the reality of not being able to retain and recruit talent that's forcing us to do so and behave in a different way. And actually also building on our ERG groups to ensure we reflect the communities within which we do business.
Yeah, and I just want to comment back on the ERG group, because I know that when we were doing the practice run, we were talking about blood donations, which is, you know, something which is not part of the data center. It is a human thing. It is for the community benefit. So, you know, when we're looking at how do we empower and make our employees feel heard, because that's probably the main thing about having these groups. So I just wanted you to add a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we had a presentation from our Black ERG community in London a few weeks ago. And what they did was they invited along a charity called the African Caribbean Leukemia Trust to educate all employees about what it's like as a black person in the UK. But what they wanted to do was emphasize the fact that there are so few bone marrow donations coming from that community to have matching donations are required for people who need it. Now, that was a super charity that was there, and they do great work. But what was it also doing was educating the whole employee population that, you know what, things are different for various people because of their ethnicity and background in more ways than you can imagine. And actually, it was a really engaging event for our colleagues to learn about that, but also to be able to give back a little bit to the community, because actually what that charity also did was they started to register people that day to sign up for blood donations, bone marrow, etc. And the feedback and the engagement from our team was really positive on that.
Fantastic. And I know that I was speaking about Angela Sani. There is another book of hers, which again, just buy her entire collection because it's amazing. How Science Got Women Wrong. So there was a Yale study that was done in 2012. They sent out 100 CVs for laboratory manager. Now, it was exactly the same resume, exactly the same, but 50% were sent out with female names, 50% out with male names. In all the female-named ones, they were paid less and they were scored lower than their male counterparts, even though it was an absolutely identical thing. And I know that the session before was talking about inherent biases, and I'm going to kind of lean this way over because, Andrew, I'm really sorry, but I can't really see you. But trying to take these biases out of the recruitment process is incredibly important. And I know that Vicky and Rachel were saying that it's each of our own individual responsibility to do that. So do you want to give us a little bit of information about what you're doing and what EdgeConnect are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not part of the HR team, but I do know that, you know, as part of probably most companies, is they've done a huge exercise over the last year reviewing everybody within the organisation's salaries and career paths. And I think something you said, Ian, it's really important to look after individuals, no matter what gender or unconscious bias, whatever you want to call it. It's really important to ensure that everybody feels valued, and this is an exercise that we are completing at the end of this year to ensure we're all on the same trajectory of success of the company, success of the people as well.
Perfect. So I just want to say thank you very much to all our panelists. I think today's been absolutely fantastic, and one of the things that I think all of us can take away is it's our own individual responsibility. So for the audience that are actually here, what can you do to help improve things and develop things for our industry? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much. Feel free to take the stage and leave on the centre steps. And this closes out the conference programme for day one. Come back tomorrow at 9:30 for the opening day 2 keynote panel entitled "What Does the Future Hold for Telecoms in an Inflationary Environment?" We got a stellar speaker lineup for that one, so do make sure to check out that. There are a couple of evening receptions taking place in the next few hours in the meantime, including one taking place in the Clipper Bar, held by NTT right now. Please check the agenda on